Support for Central Florida Public Media comes from Orange County Library System, offering enriching programs and resources for seniors at 15 locations throughout the county. With hands-on workshops, expert-led seminars, and more, a complete list of programs is available at ocls.org/senior/events.
Unpacking Florida's redistricting special session. You're listening to The Wrap from Central Florida Public Media. I'm Brendan Byrne. Florida is the latest state to tackle the controversial process of redrawing voting maps mid-decade. But a special session to do just that has been delayed by 1 week. Governor Ron DeSantis issued a proclamation postponing it and reviving a couple of his priorities that failed during the regular legislative session, like an AI Bill of Rights and legislation expanding vaccine exemptions for public K-12 students. The session will now begin April 28th. Ahead of that, our elections reporter, Sam Stockbridge, tells us what to expect and what's at stake. That's ahead on The Wrap, the big stories this week from Central Florida Public Media. But first, these headlines. There's now more clarity about when Florida lawmakers will return to Tallahassee. WFSU's Tristan Wood reports a special session on redistricting, artificial intelligence, and more has been announced to start on April 28th.
The change comes via a proclamation from the governor, updating the scope of the special session beyond just redistricting, and pushing the date back a week from when it was originally scheduled. A memo from Senate President Ben Albritton gave clarity on what proposals will be on the table. In it, he says the governor's office will be presenting its proposed congressional map redraw at the start of the special session, while senators will be refiling two bills that the House didn't pass during the regular session. One is focused on passing consumer AI protections. The other creates a new exemption from vaccine requirements for children attending K-12 schools, and authorized the sale of ivermectin without a prescription. Absent from the memo was any mention of the state budget. Lawmakers still have not passed one, despite being legally required to do so by the start of the new fiscal year on July 1st. The redistricting issue is drawing national attention, with eyes ahead at the midterms later this year. It follows national congressional redrawing efforts in Texas, California, and other states.
That's Tristan Wood reporting in Tallahassee. Declining enrollment is forcing Orange County Public Schools to make staffing cuts for the next school year, eliminating more than 200 positions, most of them currently unfilled. Central Florida Public Media's Joe Burns has more.
OCPS informed staff in a district-wide email earlier this week. Here's Chief Communications Officer Scott Howitt.
The staff reductions are part of a 3% reduction at the district level that would include administrative positions and other potential program cuts, but at the district level, not at the school level. They're necessary to ensure that we are balancing our budget.
The district already put a freeze on hiring for those positions. Most are believed to be vacant, but some employees would be placed on an unassigned list and could take a different job at OCPS. The downward trend in enrollment and the loss of per-pupil funding is expected to continue. Howitt points to declining birth rates, immigration policy, housing issues, and Florida's universal voucher program. Joe Burns, Central Florida Public Media.
The crew of NASA's Artemis II mission is reflecting on the record-breaking trip around the moon and back. It's been about a week since the 4 astronauts splashed down in the Pacific Ocean after their mission. The crew's Orion spacecraft took the 4 on a trip farther into space than any other humans before, and the mission was broadcast in real time to people here on Earth. NASA's Christina Cook says the crew is just now realizing the significance of their impact.
I cannot overstate how important that was to us. It was every bit as important as accomplishing the technical goals and being there for our NASA teammates was to make this the world's mission and for it to have a positive impact on as much of the world as possible.
Work on the next Artemis mission is already underway at the Kennedy Space Center. Teams began moving the mobile launcher from the launch site to the vehicle assembly building. That's where NASA will build the next rocket for Artemis 3, which could launch as early as next year. These stories and more on our website. Visit cfpublic.org. Can you imagine a world without art? Valencia College Theater is exploring the importance of art by proposing worlds where art does not exist in a series of one-act plays.
There's music if you are tapping your spoon on the edge of a pot. There's singing if you're humming to yourself, and I think that really shows that a world without art may not even be possible because we're all doing it all the time.
Hear more on Spotlight. Get it wherever you get this podcast. Governor Ron DeSantis delayed the start of the state's special session on redistricting by a week. It had been scheduled to begin on Monday. Florida is the latest state to tackle the controversial process of redrawing voting maps mid-decade. Central Florida Public Media's election reporter Sam Stockbridge spoke with Talia Blake to help us understand what this actually means.
Hey, Sam.
Hey, Talia. Great to be here.
So, Sam, people may hear redistricting and honestly instantly zone out. Before we even really get going here, tell us why this matters.
So Congress is supposed to represent the interests of everyone in the country because it has a say in pretty much everything that the federal government does, from the military to Social Security to immigration. It's your direct line to having a say in what government does.
The voice of the people, right? So what makes this round of redistricting so controversial?
Well, it's unusual because redistricting has historically only occurred every 10 years after the census, which is what the U.S. Constitution requires. So while nothing prevents states from redrawing maps before the next census, they usually don't because it can be time-consuming, expensive, and confusing for voters.
So why does DeSantis want to draw new maps? I understand that part of the reason he gave was Florida's recent population growth.
You're exactly right, Talia. Let's listen to this bit from the governor when he announced the special session in January.
We also need to see how our population has changed so much in the last 4 or 5 years. We need to get apportioned properly, and people deserve equal representation.
Since the 2020 census, Florida has seen the second highest population growth in the country, but legally, lawmakers can't use any newer data for the new maps. And in calling the special session, DeSantis had also expected the Supreme Court to decide on a case involving the Voting Rights Act. It still hasn't made a decision on that case.
I remember lots of conversation across the country last summer around the Trump administration pushing states to redistrict. So how does that play into what's now happening in Florida?
Well, DeSantis has not said that he's doing any of this because of any sort of push from the Trump administration. But Rollins College political science professor Patrick Rickert says it's hard to ignore how the special session fits into that broader national trend you mentioned.
It'll probably be a lot harder for the governor to make a claim that this is just about drawing fair districts if everyone has already said this is about gaining more seats for Republicans.
Talia, I also think it's important to say that here in Florida, Republicans already control 20 of Florida's 28 congressional seats.
So let's talk Central Florida. Are there any districts that could be redrawn here?
Well, the tricky thing is, lawmakers haven't published the proposed maps yet, but there's a lot of talk about Florida's 9th congressional district, which includes all of Osceola County and southern Orlando. Democratic Representative Darren Soto has held that seat for 9 years, but in 2024, his congressional race was the least safe among Florida Democrats. Professor Rickert expects a scenario where Soto and Democratic Representative Maxwell Frost are forced to run against each other. But again, that remains to be seen until we actually see any maps.
Sam, I'm sure you're going to continue to keep us up to speed on this issue.
Of course. I should also say that if Republicans are successful, this almost certainly will end up being challenged in courts, especially since there are questions about whether partisan redistricting is the goal here, which would violate Florida's constitution.
That was Central Florida Public Media's Talia Blake speaking with elections reporter Sam Stockbridge. That's it for The Wrap this week. This podcast is produced by Central Florida Public Media with editorial assistance from news director Latoya Dennis. I'm Brendan Byrne. This is The Wrap.